What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders Awakened. On Tuesday, Endless Mode does launch in DDA on PC, Xbox, and PS4, so I'm going through and doing some theory crafting on the builds I'm going to use first. Now, let me clarify a little bit from yesterday's video in Act 1. Ensnare auras, Enrage auras are super good. However, they may not be required for the first day. Now, when this first launches and is available to us, I personally am going to be going for golden pets. I'm not going to be trying to push endless mode. I'm going to try to get as many golden pet unlocks as possible and get myself that golden giraffe, hopefully within the first few days. We'll have to see how that goes, of course, but it depends on how the scaling goes. Of course, you don't really need a super meaty build doing non-bonus difficulties in the current state of the game. Now, with that in mind, Phil did mention that the endless mode scaling was a little too easy on the PTR, and it is getting cranked up to 11. So we may need those Enrage Rs in there, but we're gonna kind of have to check and see with what we get in the update. So today we're going to go ahead and go through Act 2. Let's hop right on into Tornado Valley. Now, Tornado Valley is no different than the majority of Act 2, and that is, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, and, you know, I got such mixed emotions on what I'm going first. But for T-Valley, this is a general idea of what I had in mind. Starting off right over here, all the way up to the spawn with an Ensnare Aura and an Electric Aura, making sure to adequately cover both lanes right here. Then I am going to get that Enrage Aura in, and I'm going to assume that we still need it. However, we don't know yet if that is going to be a certainty. And then to top it all off, we're going to go with our lovely explosive traps. We're going to go up as close as we can to the spawn on this one, and we're kind of want to watch where that label is placed, as we're going to want to double dip on a buff beam. So we want a explosive trap down below as well, and we're going to have to look and make sure we're hitting both of these explosive traps with a buff beam, and as you see, we were there. Now, additionally, I'm going to go ahead and add gas traps in the back. Once again, making sure that they're good and into all the damage zones prior to this gas trap going off, so something like that. And then we're going to come on over to this side of the map. Now, right here, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to hug the wall over here as close as I can with an Ensnare and an Electric Aura. Going to go ahead and back it up a little bit on an Enrage Aura. So, like I said, I'm not sure. If we don't need the Enrages, then I will probably just go with an additional damaging defense. Now, on day one, I got a lot of questions as well. People saying, oh, well, so many defenses are changing. Why aren't you using the changed defenses? And that is because, like I said, I'm going right for the golden pets right away. And I don't want to experiment. I just want to go through and get the unlocks and get the golden pets. Now, of course, once I get those wave 100 unlocks, then I can come back down and do, you know, the bonus difficulty high wave starts at any time. So we're going to do the same thing there again. We're going to put an Ensnare Aura and an Electric Aura just as close as we can get it. We're going to go with a explosive trap and then a gas trap, double dipping in both of these lanes. Now we're going to go ahead and tie all that together as well with a buff beam, and then just to be safe, we're going to throw that Enrage Aura there in the back. Now if we look, that gives us 16 DU left, and we do have some Copter Ogres on this map. This particular map here is one of the areas I got mixed emotions. Part of me wants to kind of park on one of these platforms here where the Dark Elf Warriors can't get me, on like a tower boost monk with a striking gemstone, and sit here and kind of boost it out on top of some wisps, DSTs, whatever. Now if we look at the map, this platform right here is about as close to dead center of the entire map as we're going to get, and I think that is a pretty good place to throw down some of those wisps. Now, I'm looking forward to playing around with other defenses, but like I said, for day one, I'm going for unlocks here. So just want to get those unlocks going. And we're going to go with as many wisps as we can hit here and still include a buff beam. Now, if we look, I'm a little light on DU, as I really need at least, at a minimum, 1 DU for reflect beams. Ideally, I would have 2 DU, but what can I do here to change things up and free up a little bit more DU? And I think really the only option here is going to be to get rid of one of the wisps. Now, with this in mind, we're only going to have 2 damaging defenses here. It's probably not going to be as worth to sit here on a monk and boost it out. However, I think it may still be quite effective even just with the 2 wisps. Now, another part of me here on this map wants to get rid of like the electric auras or get rid of the enrage auras. Figure if just the enrage auras are gone, that's 15 DU, and I've got 1 DU left over. That's 16 DU. That would be 4 more wisps, which would be absolutely huge. Now, if the map doesn't need those enrage auras, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to throw 4 more wisps right here in the middle. That's going to give me 6 in total, and that should do quite a bit of damage. And then I can sit here on a boost monk with like a striking gemstone or a speedy or a powerful, whatever, and boost it out. Now, you got clear line of sight into all of the ogres, so you're going to be able to help out with all the ogre lanes. You're also going to be completely protected from any sort of ogre projectiles and Dark Elf Warriors as well, as they're just not going to make it all the way up onto that platform. If you do have a Dark Elf Warrior drop on you, then just burn it down quickly. But I think that is going to be a pretty solid way to start off this map. Now jumping right into Tornado Highlands. This particular map, once again, a lot of different thought processes. There's a lot of different things we can do right here. I think what I am going to do is start off with, say, some aura stacks. Do we want them there or right here? Let's actually go right here with them, right at the spawn, in Snare Aura and Electric Aura. I'm going to assume that I need those enrages, but of course we may not need those enrages here. I'm going to back it away just a little bit and make sure I'm not right on top of that aura there. And then here as well, we're going to try... Can we double dip on traps? Let's see. And it's a little bit sketch. We can actually put an explosive trap way over to the side here for these mobs to trigger it. And then the explosion radius is going to hit everything. But the problem with that is if there's no mobs here, there's not going to be anything to trigger that explosive. I don't feel like I got enough trigger range if I place it right here on the middle. I think just to be safe, I would probably go 2 sets of traps. So we'll go with an explosive right there with, say, a gas trap. That gives us a little bit of the label where we can throw a buff beam in here in a moment. Then we can go, an explosive trap like, say, right here. And then a gas trap back behind. Now, let's see, that's up there pretty far, actually. We would want to bring them back just a trickle because we want them to be inside of that aura. Now, of course, I don't have the buff beams on yet. Let's say right about like this instead. Something like that right there. And then here, I think the only thing we could do is probably 2 buff beams. Or we could completely rethink this whole thing. But I think let's see how it pans out using it like that. Now, if we come on down to this lane here, we're going to get a real nice double dip on these 2 lanes by building just right here. So just going to go with a straight up aura stack right here. I am going to throw that enrage in just to be safe. However, that's going to be the first thing to go if we don't need it, y'all. I do assure you of that. Then we're going to get an explosive. We'll get a gas further back. And then I think I'll wait on putting that buff beam down. And now if we come around to here, now a couple of benefits you got here. First off, you got a big meat, a big portion of the entire map's enemies converging in an area right here that actually has a backup if anything leaks. So here for this area, I think I would just do something like this. We'll get an electric aura there and an ensnare aura. I would make sure that it goes all the way out onto probably this back platform. So let me back these up just a little bit and go something like this. Now I want to make sure the R is hitting this platform right here because, oh yeah, right here we are putting on the fight. Now, what else do we want to do? We could actually throw a explosive trap as well. We would want to make sure that the label is getting over onto that pad as well. We would have to go like right there with it, which is not spectacular, but I think it would get the job done. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a nice platform right here to wisp it up. Now on this map, we're going to have copter ogres, of course, coming from that lane. The bad part about using this pedestal is you don't have any line of sight on the copter ogres. However, if we are going to go with something like those wisps, we could go with something like this and hopefully get this all covered. Did I get a buff beam down here yet? I did not. So let's go ahead and get our buff beam here. We've got the buff beams here already. It would actually be nice to be able to converge this somewhere, but I really like how that is right there. And then, what does that give us? That gives us bad placement on these wisps. Let's go something like this instead. We'll just go 2 by 2 maybe. Do we have enough for one more? Not really, to be completely safe. So then, of course, after we get those 4 wisps in, now this would be ideal for a gemstone. So if you're using a speedy or a striking may actually be the one to use on this map. And I think I would do something like this and go with the old triangle, the triangle of reflecty goodness. That's actually going to leave us 3 DU left. What would we want to do with 3 DU? Well, I mean, there's lots of choices here. We could actually throw a gas trap right here as well. I'm not sure we're going to want a gas trap here. It might actually slow the map down too much, but we could throw a gas trap, say, like right there, and give us just a whole nother bit of protection here. And I think something like this will get us a Wave 100 win. Now, if you didn't want to go this heavy on traps, or if you didn't have everything set up, and particularly if we don't need the enrage auras, then I think all of that DU would go directly into wisps, and we would just put more wisps right here, and then focus on kind of staying in this area and boosting it out. Now, when the ogre comes from the same place every time, so when the ogre comes, we are going to want to burn that bad boy down. But I believe that would be the solid start that I personally am probably going to go for on the Highlands. Now, moving on along to the Ramparts. There's one big problem with the Ramparts for me personally, and that is I grinded it in DD1, I grinded it in Dungeon Defenders Eternity, I grinded it in Dungeon Defenders 2, and now I'm on DDA, the 4th game, with this exact same map in it. And to be honest with you, I'm just done with this map. I'm ready for it to be over with. I will probably try to get to Wave 100 on this map pretty quick, like maybe even first right away, just to get it out of the way, because this is just not a map that I personally enjoy anymore, and I just don't want to play it. So I'm going to go for it to get the pet, and besides that, I'm not touching this darn map. So I would start off with an electric and ensnare, and once again making the assumption that we do need an enrage aura, which we just might not, right here. Now then I would come on down to the bottom here, I would check the ranges on these auras, and then go with something like an explosive trap, really all the way up at the spawn, and then a gas trap slightly behind. This is going to leave us in a position for buff beams, which we'll get them in after we got the other auras placed. That way we don't have any issues with ranges. And then additionally, we're going to go with an explosive trap as far as we can right here. And then a gas trap directly behind. Ditto there, exact same concept. Now we're going to come on over to this side of the map. Now over here, we're going to go... actually, you know, we can come all the way out with them, really. If you came out to here, you're getting more area into this lane in the start. So why don't we do that? We'll come all the way out with the auras, like to there. Gonna throw that in range down under the assumption that I'm gonna need it, and I just may not. And I think we got really good aura coverage right there. Now, we would want to go ahead and trap it up, of course, so let's go with an explosive trap right there. We'll go with a gas trap, and now I think we're in a position where we can slap some buff beams down. So let's use a 3DU buff beam right there. We'll drop a 3DU buff beam, say right here. And then, of course, we'll get a nice juicy one in on the bottom as well. Now, this leaves a whopping 47 DU left. It's one of the good things about this map is you can really trap and aura it up and still have just a ton of DU for throwing down your damaging defenses. If you're going to use wisps, I would probably put the wisps right here. If you're going to use DSTs, I would probably put the DSTs right over here as you get a nice flat surface right here. I personally am going to be going with wisps right out of the gate, so I would do something like this. We'd get, I'd probably actually go with like a 3 wide stack. Something, we still got enough for 3 more. Something like that. That's 9 wisps. I think we can actually put in a 10th. Let's go and put in a 10th. Then we're going to go with a buff beam right across there. It's going to leave me 3 DU left, and with that 3 DU, I'm going to come over to this side of this little feature here and make sure I get coverage there where nothing can sneak shots around, and go with 3 reflect beams. I think this will be the build that I personally go for right out of the gates on this one, and I'm debating this may even be the very first map I do. Now, I like to start the reflect beam a little bit farther up towards the top because it is going to lean really weird here. And then we'll just take it down as far as we can get it. And you see we got a little gap there, but we should have pretty good coverage. Now, on this one, same thing. We're going to want to sit here and boost it out on a boost monk as we got a lot of power right here going out. So we can get that tower boost on all of this stuff. Now, you can also, that tower boost is going to be hitting your auras as well. So you're going to be getting a lot of electric aura power on this area. So that lane down below and anything that comes up this lane should just get insta-melted. Anything else, there's 10 wisps, y'all. They are going to shred it. Now, for that same DU, how much DU was that? Let's see. Say you wanted to do the DSTs instead. You could come over here. DSTs, of course, are 8 DU. You could go 5 DSTs down here and still have enough for a buff beam and reflect beams right here in this area and have great coverage for all the copters, all the ogres, and everything. And last but not least, we've got the throne room. All of Act 2 is this way, in my opinion, and that is there's just a lot of different ways you can do it. So I think what I personally am going to start off with on this one, we're going to start off right here on this side of the map. We're going to go with an Ensnare Aura and Electric Aura. Then we're going to go ahead and really stack on the pain. So we're going to get Explosive Trap here. You do want to put your Explosive Trap back far enough where it's going to be getting triggered by any of the mobs that leak through on these side lanes. And then back behind it, we're going to drop in that Gas Trap. Now, just to be safe, once again, we are throwing in an Enrage. And let me tell you, that Enrage is going to keep everything up here in this area right here. Nothing, or not much, is going to come down and around on this one. Now we're going to come over to the side lanes. We've got 3 lanes to cover. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go Ensnare Aura, Electric Aura, and just to be safe, we're going to throw that Enrage in. And then, what do we got going here? Why is this Enrage not working? We got to come out a little further. Okay, we're going to have to come up with that Enrage, which would make me want to move these up a little bit as well. Let's go ahead and move those up to, say, like right here. Now, with the traps on this side, you want your traps to be on this lane and the center. You can't cover all 3 lanes. You're just not going to get good coverage with the trigger range on it. So if you come all the way over to the side, you've got 2 lanes that are going to be triggering your traps. So we're going to put like an Explosive Trap there. and a gas trap right here. You've got the center lane, and you've got this lane triggering it. Anything that comes out over here, if everything is dead on those two lanes, is not going to trigger those traps. But remember, anything that leaks through is going to have to go through this mess as well. So they're still just going to get walloped. In addition to that, we would go ahead and throw down a buff beam, as always, to tie it all together. Going to hold off on the center buff beam for a minute, as we're going to rinse and repeat and do the exact same thing over here. Now remember, on endless mode, this one is going to have a boss every 5 waves once you kill the boss. So you got the boss that's going to be here. There's going to be another boss spawn every 5 waves. You want to be conscious of that. Now the boss is going to get thick. There is no doubt. It's going to be a meaty boy. Remember, we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to have our traps hugging this wall right over here. Now, with that in mind, with this being a super thick lane, one thing we want to do is put nothing down here that can be destroyed. So we don't want to have anything down here that the boss is going to take out if we're not able to burn it fast enough. So let's go ahead and get our buff beam in up here as well. And then that gives us 34 DU left. Now 34 DU is quite a chunk. A few areas you can go over here. Actually, that may end up being where I'm going. You can go up here, but up here they're going to be a lot more susceptible to Dark Elf Warriors. If you go something like this, what does that allow you to do? We got, you can't go a double there. Actually, let's see. Can we get these in any closer? Oh, there we go. We could go a double there, so just a matter of packing them in. Wow, we're going to be able to get 6 wisps down here, maybe even more. Can we get a 7th? There's 7 wisps. And we're going to want to overclock them. And then, just to be safe, I think the thing to do on this map is going to be to spray these lanes down yourself with a DPS character like the Rogue with a Pierce weapon. So you'd want to be using a weapon like the Wolfsbane Sniper from the Lichen King and burn down these lanes, as the enemies are going to be all nice and lined up for you. So you're going to be able to shoot through the packs and get a radiate going on everything. Now with that in mind, I personally think I would use the last 2 DU and just do, oop, that's a double. Let's go with a single DU reflect. Just go something like this. And you're going to have ogres coming from both sides, so if you're DPS in the middle and an ogre throws at you from the other side, it's going to reflect. Or if you're DPS in this way and the ogre throws at you from this side, it's going to reflect. Now, this map could end up being a grindy one. We're going to have to see how tough the boss scales up. However, this is another one that's on my top list of maps that I want to get knocked out right away, as soon as possible to get those golden pets. But that will do it for this episode. Thanks an absolute ton for watching. Really looking forward to this update going live. I'm debating on doing a big cross stream between multiple platforms on launch day. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of that. Of course, I've streamed from YouTube and Twitch before. I was thinking of adding in a few more places and streaming to all of the platforms. But thank you all once again, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.